2005, 82,000 people, been 32 years that we had not qualified for a World Cup.
There was a lot more to get to this situation. The next time was against Uruguay in 2001. I only came on for about 5 minutes. And after the game, I said to my wife, next time we're here and put in this situation, I'm going to be the one to be able to step up and help us. When the time came, I knew this was going to happen. I missed a penalty when I was 14 years old in a semi-final. When I missed, we lost. I remember saying to myself, if I ever get put in this situation ever again, I need to be ready. What you can't practice the walk from the halfway line to the penalty spot. All I was saying was do exactly what you did last night and we're going to the World Cup. I was in the zone, the 80,000 people. I could only hear whispers, didn't look at the goalkeeper once. It was all about striking the ball. The next day, a guy came up to me and said, "You've made my dying father a happy man." He didn't think that he would see Australia qualifying again. Those things really touch you.
Very, very excited to welcome John Aloisi to our podcast, Shaped. Just full disclosure, all the way over here in the car, in my head, I was singing, Aloisi, Johnny Aloisi. I was seriously, I don't know why, but it was in my head. I couldn't get it out of my head. But I'm looking forward to hearing more of your story. I mean, it's been quite the journey from uplifting your Italian family, moving at the age of 15 to another country, playing the sport that you love and spending so much time moving around and having different experiences to your kids, your family, your wife, and everything else that comes in between, and now coaching over there in China. I'm really looking forward to hearing some of the things that have shaped you to where you've got to now and some of your fondest memories. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. It's there's a lot of memories. It's you'll probably bring up things that I've forgotten about.
That's my job.
Yeah, exactly. But looking forward to it.
Now, you are a Socceroos hero, and I do want to just quickly, I know that we chatted about this off air, but soccer, footy, you grew up referencing it as soccer because you were in Australia, but it is the world football.
Yeah, I don't mind what people want to call it, because at the end of the day, as long as you're talking about the game that we love, I love, that's enough. I grew up calling it soccer because back then football was Aussie rules. I grew up in Adelaide, loved footy, and but when I moved around overseas, obviously you call it different names in different countries. In Italy, it was calcio. In England, some people still call it soccer. A lot of people call it football. I don't care what you call it.
Go back to the Italian reference. Calcio. I need to work on my Italian to start with. You spoke about Adelaide, and where we do love to start with our guests is their roots, the upbringing, the environment that they grew up in. I know that not only were you part of a very strong Italian family, but you lived next door to your nonna.
Yes.
And nonno?
Yeah, no, he passed away when my mum was only 13 years old.
Yeah, right.
So my nonna was next door. On the other side of us, it was my auntie and uncle, my cousins, older cousins. And then down the road was my other grandparents, nonno and nonna. And so, yeah, around that area, there was a big Italian community. So it felt like we only mixed in with Italians growing up at the start.
Tell me about what, living in that street felt like as a kid growing up. I'm sure, very strong with regards to the women in their life, strong father figures, but then also the mums and nonnas, all just kind of encompassing and making sure that you're well looked after. Yeah,
we had, so my nonna was always around, and so she liked to cook, Italian families especially grow their own vegetables and all those things. So we just thought that was normal until you start to realise that we're quite lucky that we had them looking after us and also showing what was important to them. And because meals are really, really important in an Italian family and also a lot of European families, that's where you discuss your day and what's going on in your life. And so that's why food is such an important part of our life. And also because we had our grandmother next door, we would see our cousins a lot, and so we were really close growing up with our cousins. And when you're young, you want to play stuff, and that's where sport came into it. And we used to play every sport under the sun. Especially, I used to play a lot of sport with my brother,
which is Ross, who was also a very talented football soccer player, and is now coaching in the same league that you do over there in China. You mentioned the word ritual, and that was a time for people to come together and share what has happened during the day and some of their challenges and so forth. Is that something that you've had to carry forward, fast forwarding into being a coach in new environments with a mix of cultures? Is that how you actually bring people together and kind of share the journey?
Yeah, one of the places, well, China, the players didn't really. They would come at different times to eat dinner or lunch and whatever, and I made sure that because it was when I first arrived in China, I was surprised that every player had their own bedroom at the training ground, and I was going, okay, where's their changing room? They go, they haven't got a changing room. That's their changing room, and I go, but how do they create this team culture if they have no dressing room? And they said, well, we haven't got one. And I said, okay, how can I make this work? We've got a kitchen at the training facility. We're training in the morning, so I made sure that after everyone's eating lunch together, and then obviously if they have gym in the afternoon or if they need to go home, but lunch all together. And that comes from my own upbringing that, sit down, talk about whatever you want to talk about, your life, training. You want to bag the coach, you bag the coach.
Great opportunity.
It's a good opportunity for everyone to get together. And so, it has come into play. And along with a lot of other things that were brought up as special values for me, they might be different around the world, but I try and bring it back into the way I coach.
Ultimately, your values are the way that you influence a culture, and particularly when you're coming into a new one. Speaking of coaching, your dad, Rocky, he also coached at a high level in Australia.
Yeah, he coached the NPL, which is like the state league back then. So you have the A League and just that league underneath. He coached us as kids, and he's mad sport lover. He played cricket, so we grew to love cricket growing up. Watch him play, watch him compete. He's a competitor. Like, I think he's even more competitive than myself and my brother. And soccer, we fell in love with the game because he loved it so much. And we probably didn't even know that we would be shaped to being coaches, but we were shaped because of him. And we saw him coach and what he used to do and how he loved it and really had a passion for it.
When your dad has such a passion and is so involved in a sport, and you and your brother have shown, you have other siblings?
Yeah, three sisters. A lot of people don't. They get upset.
We should acknowledge them.
Yeah.
Give them their names.
Yeah, Linda, Leanne, and Bianca. So they're I felt sorry for them a lot because our family revolved around soccer, and they used to have to come along. They played their sport, but soccer was
along as well. Back to your dad, in the way that he was so passionate and loved the game. Was there an element of pressure that came with that in the way that he approached educating you guys or wanting you to get the best out of yourself? Or was it just a shared passion? So then there was investment and love in watching you play? Or was it a combination of both at times?
I don't think he told us he loved watching us play until maybe when we retired. Back then it was different growing up. Your parents didn't know how to give you the love or the positive feedback that we probably know now is really important. My dad was someone that don't get ahead of yourself. A lot of the time he would be like, make sure that that last game's gone now. You have to focus on this one. He was, I wouldn't say negative, but he was not one to be super positive. So, for instance, I was playing for him in the NPL, and I was only 15 at the time, and would have turned 15. And a guy from the A League dropped down to play in our side, and so I started on the bench that game, and he took off the player after 20 minutes because he wasn't doing his job properly, and he puts his son on. And he goes, and make sure you bloody do well. So there's the pressure already on making sure that I did well. It wasn't because I was pressured by him. It was more that you have to be better than everyone else or else I can't play you. And so that drove me as well.
Love that. Speaking of playing in the NSL, you did debut at 15. Is it true that there was a riot
Yeah.
in that game and you were stuck in the middle of it?
I wasn't really stuck in the middle of it. What happened was I was a 15-year-old kid coming on. It was against Melbourne, Croatia back at the time. And so there was a lot of Croatian supporters, and I played for an Italian club, Adelaide City. And there was a bit of a rivalry there. I wouldn't say too much of a rivalry, but I was running with the ball, and a player from Melbourne, Croatia tackled me and pushed me to the ground. And then all of a sudden I'm on the floor, and there's people around. I'm going, what's going on? But I didn't realise until after that a couple of supporters jumped the fence to try and hit the player that hit me. And so it was front page of the Advertiser.
Understandably.
Yeah, so I was a bit of a star at school the next day.
In that moment, I mean, there's a lot going on. Did you shit your pants, or you
No.
felt like it was always in control?
Yeah, one thing about it is that you know what it's like to play at an elite level. You have to have self-confidence, and you get tested with that during your career.
100%.
But at the time, 15, you don't know. You're so confident in your own ability that when you step out onto the field, you think nothing can hurt you. And so I didn't care about people coming on the field, or I didn't care about the opposition. I just knew that I was good enough to be at that level. And that's the belief that I had, especially at that age. Then during your career, then you can get knocked around a little bit in terms of your confidence. But when you're young, you don't care. You just go for it.
Bounce back up and away you go. Fast forward another year, 16, and your opportunity to move out of home and move overseas comes. What's that like for a young Italian kid that's very much set in his ways? He's got a great family connection and culture around him that's very protective, I'm sure. To make that decision, like, is it something that you just decide on your own? Is it something that you sit there with your dad or mum or both and kind of go, well, this is the opportunity we've all been wanting for me?
So first I went to the Institute of Sport, which was a big help for me to get out of home, in terms of experience what it was like to live away from the family support. And that was good. It was tough, but it was good. But I had other players going through similar stories than me. And so the Institute of Sport, I was lucky. I had Mark Viduka, Josip Skoko, Craig Moore, all players that we ended up playing the World Cup together. And then the opportunity came to go to Belgium. First of all, I went on trial, and I went on trial with my dad. He came over, and it was during winter there, and that was brutal. Like, it was cold, and it was in Liège, French-speaking part of Belgium. They don't really speak English much, and so my dad knew how much I wanted to play at a professional level, because back in Australia at the time it was only semi-professional. So my dream and my goal was to play professional football. And after 2 weeks, they wanted to keep me, and my dad said, "Look, I couldn't do what you're doing, but if you really want to do this, go for it." And so that was the support he showed. And I knew that I would have their support no matter what. But back then it was hard. The first, I would say, 3 years living away from Australia, home, were the toughest 3 years. I look back and I go, I don't know how I got through that period.
Yeah, when you reflect on it, do you feel like there was a moment in time where you genuinely question whether it was right? I'm sure there was many of them, but was there one particular moment where you kind of go, I'm either all in, or I'm going to live a life that I'm happy with, but it's safer?
I wouldn't say that I ever questioned that this is what I wanted to do. I would say that I missed home badly. And there were moments, when winter, injuries, lack of form, didn't know who to turn to when you're not doing well, because you don't know who you can trust, can't trust. Coaches don't really, back then, weren't giving you much feedback. So you're left by yourself, and you had to grow up really fast and deal with all those setbacks and deal with situations that are coming at you and whatever else. So that's why I say the first 3 years were tough, because there was so much that I hadn't experienced, and I had to try and get through it, because there was no way I was going to go back home and work. I will say I was doing something I loved, even though it was hard. But for me, it wasn't a job. It was that I wanted to make it to the highest level possible, and I knew that I had to stick it out with all the obstacles that were getting thrown at me.
When you reflect on that, I assume that was where you built a level of resilience and grit that held you in really good stead as you progressed and matured and got further down the track in your career? Not to say that there wasn't still challenging times and there was moments where you did miss home. I'm sure there's still times where you miss home, but was there one thing that you could implement into your daily life or weekly life that actually helped you kind of sit there and go, okay, it's not as bad as it seems, not as good as it seems, but I'm working towards it?
Yeah, I funny enough, I started to read. I didn't read a lot at school. I didn't.
Not many of us
No,
did, I don't think.
but I started to read more when I was living by myself, and I was reading the Bible a lot at the start, and that was keeping me like, okay, stories from the Bible were helping me, and then I would go into Tony Robbins back then, and so I was. No one was teaching you how to, self-talk or
The mental side of
the
the
mental
game was
side. No, it
non-existent.
was non-existent. So at any club, they didn't teach you that. So I was finding it myself, and I was finding it that it was helping me a lot. And then you write down. And back then, I didn't know they were affirmations, and I'd be writing them down, and I would be writing down what I want to get out of life. And at the institute, I was taught that a little bit about setting goals. And so those things were helping me. So when I was going through tough times, I was like, but what do I really want? And how am I going to get there? And, what are the next steps? And so then you focus on your daily training. Okay, I need to really, I'm a striker. I need to practice my finishing. So you stay after training and work on your finishing. And they're the things that got me through the tough times. It was sort of like, I know that this is where I want to get to, and I'm working towards that, and this is how I'm working towards that.
Brilliant points for people to take away. I love this saying: if it's in your head, you're probably dead. If you're in your feet, you're sweet. And the way that I get it out of my head is actually just by journaling and putting stuff on, and then create the motion after that. But you touched on the trust early days, and I don't know if it's something that still exists in a lot of football cultures. My understanding, without being in them, is that there can be very fragmented. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah. Especially when you're in a dressing room. Look, I didn't think it much of the time. When you're a player, you understand little bits of like trust in each other, trust in the coaching staff, trust in the club, your whole environment. But when you're playing, especially when you're young, you're focusing on what you have to do, which is normal. I think you have to make sure that you're doing the right things to perform as well as you can. But when I got older, I started to realize what good dressing rooms were like, and how that you can try and mold that a little bit, because I was in some pretty poor dressing rooms over my period of time, and that you couldn't trust your teammate, you couldn't trust the coaches are coaches, especially back then. They
had a job to do.
Yeah, they had a job to do. They're very standoffish. They would never really. So you didn't know that you had trust from a coach. The only time you thought you had trust from a coach is when he's playing you. And that was the only time. A club, you would find that if they were trying to look after you, that you could trust certain people within the club. But I found it really hard, especially at the start, that who do I trust here? And it's not only within your club and your environments, it's outside. It's the daily life that you need to be able to trust people as well. Buying a car, I was a kid. How do I know how to buy a car? How do I know who I can trust is giving me the right advice? And so that was where I started to be able to try and read people, and obviously make mistakes through that. But that's helped me now mold me as a coach, because I can read how I'm communicating with someone, or how they're communicating with me. Can I trust them? What are they like as people? And sort of now it's a lot easier for me to pick up my own players, what they like as people.
Brilliant insights. We'll come back to that, because I'm really interested about the dressing room and the differences between the great ones that you've been part of and the ones that haven't been so good. Speaking of trust, who was that one or two person that you did find that confidant in and has shaped kind of where you are now, but particularly in those early stages of your career?
Especially in Belgium, Aurelio Vidmar, who now coaches at Melbourne City, he grew up in Adelaide as well, along with his brother Tony. And so Aurelio shaped a lot of the way my life was at the start, especially in my career, because when I was training with the Adelaide City National Soccer League team, I was only 14 when I first started training, and he was older, 9 years older than me. But what he would do after training, he'd go, "Come over here, stretch with me." And a lot of the other players weren't stretching and weren't doing anything. "Come over here, do some extra sit-ups with me." And so he was sort of teaching me the right way to be a professional. And he probably just wanted company. I don't know. I was a young kid. There was probably someone that
he obviously saw something in you, though.
Yeah, maybe. And then what helped was when I was first went to Belgium, he was in Belgium. So he was playing professional football over there, and he already had a name, and he was established. And so I could ring him up and, "This is what I'm going through. Yeah, don't worry, this is normal. What do I do in this situation?" And then we'll catch up at least once a week. At the time when we had a day off, he would drive 2.5 hours to come and see me for lunch. And so that I've told him over the years that how much that helped me. I don't know if he really realizes how much it helped me, but it got me through some really difficult situations.
You can tell him down the barrel if you want. We'll send it to him directly, all right?
I do speak to him every now and then, but he did help me, especially early on. And then you start to find people, teammates that you got a little bit in common with, that can help you through some moments. And then over the years, you end up knowing that you probably need friends outside of the game a little bit too, just to switch off, because that's hard. Is switching off from, because this is your life. This is all you wanted to do your whole life, and you bring work home with you all the time. So you need to try and find a way to detach yourself. And so I started to find friends away from football a little bit, and that helped me a lot.
Is that a hard thing to do when you're in countries and moving around?
Yeah, it is hard, because moving around a lot, plus wherever you're playing, that's the main sport. You're the main team in that town or city or whatever. So that, again, the trust factor comes into play.
Whether they're in it for the right reasons.
who the right, are they just friends with you because of who you are? We found probably our best friends later on. That was in Spain, probably because we were there the longest, there for 6 years. And so still now we'll catch up with them when we go back and keep in contact with them. It's a lot easier now through social media to keep in contact. But that's probably where we found our best group of friends.
Going back to the dressing room, you, like all of us in sport, you see the ones that are brilliant and then the ones that are breaking down. Now being in a position of coaching a team and only being there, how or what have you seen previously that makes a bloody good dressing room? What are the kind of behaviours or values that you kind of live by?
I still believe the coach drives that a lot. And in Aussie Rules, I've been into quite a few clubs and had a look to see what they do. And I know you have good leadership groups, and you're able to actually put that in place over a certain period of time, because a lot of Aussie Rules teams don't really change players that often. And a lot of you stay at one club. I know it's changing a little bit now, but in soccer, it changes very quick. So a player could be there for 2 years, then he's off and somewhere else, and whether they're going off to a better club or to a lesser club. So in our game, it's driven by the coach and the club, but the coach is the one that is speaking daily to the group. So it's about his behaviours, it's about his values, but he also needs the players to buy into that. You can't just force it down someone. And I realised that over a period of time, certain coaches I had belittle a player in front of a group, and that's not great. And you could sense the dressing room wasn't good. Like, there's always going to be in soccer that we're going to have a lot of foreigners or different backgrounds in a dressing room. So it's normal that you're going to have a little click here, a little click there. But when that click becomes that they hate each other, then it's not going to go well. And
it's a very hard barrier to break.
So I've been in those environments where we've been relegated from the top division, and I could just sense it because of the way that the actual group was in the dressing room. Then I've gone to a club like Osasuna in Spain, where I was for 4 years, and we were fighting relegation for the first few years. But I got this sense that it was more family the club wanted to be like that family club. There was a smaller club in Spain. A lot of the local players drove that as well, along with the coach. Because the coach, if he said like set the standards, so he was driving the standards a lot. So driving, the way training would go. If you've been left out, making sure that you still respect your teammates. You're working towards the same goal. If you're upset with a coach, that's okay, but don't be upset with your teammate by taking it out on them and all these little things. And then I found that Osasuna was the first place that I really felt I loved going into train, because I loved the training sessions. I loved the environment. And then you end up playing better. You end up improving more. You end up taking in more. And that had to do with the whole way that environment was at that club.
And has that experience really shaped the way that you try and coach now?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So
to give people an insight, because you shared something before we jumped on. Right now in China, you're sitting there addressing the group pre-game, halftime, whatever it is. And then you've got 4 translators communicating with different nationalities and so forth and language barriers. When you were telling me that, I'm like, oh my God, my head's like hurting trying to focus on what I need to deliver, let alone what's being said. And then the way that is actually translated, obviously words can get mixed up and so forth. So they're interpreting what you're saying and then delivering it back in that way. Is that hard?
Yeah. At the start, it was like going, can you stop talking while I'm talking? Like, let me say something. And then, so I was trying to figure out, and I'm on this a leader program through Luke Darcy, and I've got Craig McRae on there, Andrew McDonald, Anthony Seibold, who's rugby league, and Mike Dunlap in basketball, and I was trying to explain what do I do? How do I communicate? And Fly brought up a good one. He said, your body language is the most important. He said, if your body language is showing something, sometimes words don't really have to matter so much. And I go, okay, that's not bad. But at first I was like, there's too much. I can't focus on what I'm delivering. Then it was about, okay, visual. I need to show them a lot more. So our videos, a lot of drawings and showing them what position they should be in, moving players on the video and all that. You still call it video now, don't you?
Yeah. I think so.
And so so that I started to go, okay, they can see what I'm trying to explain. Doesn't matter so much what the interpreter's saying or translator's saying. Yes, it might make it clearer. And then I try to get them to, if they're not understanding, come up to me after, because it's a lot easier. But at first, there is a lot of noise going on. But then you get used to that and used to how you want to deliver and how you're delivering what you're saying to the group.
It's funny you say that, because I've had a conversation with another coach, and he's got a very young group, and it's like, mate, the research that I'm doing around this age bracket is that they're just heavily distracted. And I'm assuming even for the other players in the room, hearing translators going and so forth, their attention's all over the shop. So how do you actually narrow their focus to kind of, and he's got to the point where he's like, for our KPIs, we use emojis.
That's not bad.
When they come out at quarter time breaks and so forth, they only put up one board rather than 3.
Yeah.
And then they take that one down and they put the next one up. And it's like, it's just the way of the world. And I'm interested to know, with all the different personalities you're working with, and I'm sure that there's plenty of them, and social media stars that are playing within your team as well. Like, there's so many distractions out there, and there's a lot more people in China than there is in Australia. Is that something that you have to constantly reflect on and go, okay, how do I actually get the best out of each individual, but then also tie it back to team?
Yeah, definitely. You think about it all the time, because you think about communicating is the most important in my role, especially that how you're communicating with not only the whole team, but in individuals. So it's no different from when I was coaching here, that you have certain players that that they're the ones that drive the group a lot. So you need to make sure you have that connection with them, because you can't have a connection with 27 players. It's impossible. You can have a certain connection, but they're not all the same, and you can't have the same connection with everyone. That's where your other coaches come into play. But you're right about they can lose their focus very quickly. So I make it pretty clear when I'm doing video, okay, this is a goal kick. And so they know goal kick. And then they know back third. This is what we have to do, mid third. And I don't really change, depending on the opposition, you might say, this is where your spare man is. This is where the space is. It's pretty simple, and make it very clear and simple for them. Because if you, especially, and I learned this through the years of coaching, just simplify it as much as possible. Yes, we all can talk about tactics for hours, but simplify it for your players, because during a game, they fall back on what you've done in training. Whatever you say during a game, they can't hear me anyway now because the crowd's so loud. So they fall back on what we've done in training. So we have our main principles, our main structures, and we implement that in training. So before training, a lot of coaches like talking to their group for 15, 20 minutes. And I'm like, I speak to them for 30 seconds. This is what we're doing today. This is our main focus. And we go train. And then, like, during training, they know what we're working on, and you implement, first of all, an easy passing drill that it's still got our principles involved in that, and then your decision making. And you're not telling them, oh, now it's decision making. They know, because they need to make a decision on the ball. And then, you're working in tight spaces during a possession. What do you want to get out of the session? And so those things. So I'm learning that me talking less is helping them. A lot of coaches want to hear their own voice,
especially when things aren't going well.
Yeah, but no, just keep it clear as much as possible. The video is where I do the most talking, but it's visual. They're watching the screen. They're not watching what I'm saying, or they're probably listening a little bit, but it's visual.
Can see what you're
and I keep it very 15 minutes max. Because or else they're off with something else.
Pixies. You became the first Australian to play and score in La Liga, Premier League and Serie A. Did you know that was happening at the time?
No, I didn't. I knew it was pretty – there weren't many Australians that had been in that position to be able to play in those three countries. And at the time, when I played in Serie A, it was the best league, and it was only 3 foreigners allowed in each team, and so it was tough to get to that level. Then I went to England, but played in the Championship first, and then got into Premier League with Coventry City. And then when I was in Spain, but I didn't. When you're playing, you don't care about those things. You just want to play and do your job, and try and do the best you can and help your team win and do well yourself. And that was, when you look back at your career and when people bring it up, you go, oh, okay, that did happen, but it's not something that I was striving to do.
You lived across Europe for many, many years. Was there one particular person that shaped you, less as a player but as a human being, that you came into contact through that experience?
I have to say my parents at the start definitely shaped me, values-wise, the way that I'd speak to people. My dad was pretty clear when you're talking to someone, or shaking hands is really important. And so I've brought that into even coaching. So I make sure that every player shakes hands before training, which I think in China is a bit strange for them, but they're now getting to understand. I do it for a couple of reasons. I do it because I just think it's the respectful thing to do. We're starting the day together. But also I can see how they're feeling, like in the handshake. I remember having this discussion with Nathan Buckley once, and he was looking at me going, come on, John, how can a handshake? I go, a handshake can say a lot, especially when you're the coach and they're a player. They're either pissed off with you for whatever reason, or
which you get a read on.
Yeah, you get a read on pretty quickly. But if I don't do that, then I don't get a read. He's over there 20 meters away. We do the session. He goes home. I haven't even had that personal connection with him. And that's the connect that you're not always going to be able to speak to everyone, but you can connect with them through a handshake. So I would say, going back to it, my parents, definitely. Also, I wouldn't say my wife shaped me, but my wife's helped me through a lot of difficult, situations.
We are going to get to your wife, because you were married young.
Yeah.
20
years old.
That was 1997?
Yes. No, 96. 96, because we're coming up to 30 years in a couple of weeks.
Might as well go there. How important has it been and continues to be to have someone who, one, is very forgiving in the way that you've had to move around, uproot your family, go to this city, move to that city, and I'm sure there's a level of acceptance that comes with that. Plus, I'm sure there's been some amazing experiences as well. But how important is it to have someone, particularly when you're leading a club as coach, right by your side, backing you in with every single decision and move that you're making?
Yeah. Look, she goes unnoticed. She doesn't like when I talk about her or anything like that. But if she wasn't in my life, I don't know where my career would have gone, because it's tough. A lot of people, I bet you do what you love. Yeah, I do. I love, the sport. I love, but there's so many difficult moments in sport, in what you do, and if you don't have someone there, again, trust, that can help you through and be honest with you sometimes too. Pull your head in.
Has there been one particular conversation that you reflect on right now that you go, oh, lucky she was there?
Yeah, oh no, there's been many conversations. I remember one time in particular that when I was in Spain, I was going through a bad moment. Also, the supporters, my own fans, were on my back a little bit, and I wasn't playing well, wasn't comfortable in the whole situation. This was at Osasuna, which the club that I loved the most. In terms of when I played, I came on and I got sent off within 2 minutes, and I was so angry, and it was against a rival team, and I rang her up, let's go, and we're in the car going out of the stadium, and she goes, you have to go back. She goes, you have to face the music. You can't do this. You do this, you're gone from here. And I went, yeah, she's right. So I went back and I had to face the music and deal with the situation. And so that was one moment, but there's been hundreds. And, especially in coaching, because coaching's a lonely game. Your people are always, I know, and this saying has been going on for years, coaching has a million fathers, but when you win, when you lose, you're an orphan. So it's that's how lonely it can get sometimes, that everyone's turning to you when things aren't going well. When things are going well, everyone wants to take, everyone's on board with everything. And so when I'm going through difficult situations, or I've been sacked in the past, she was there to help me. You've been through much tougher than this. You can get through this. You're strong enough to get through this. You've got the resilience to get through this. Sometimes you need someone else to tell you that.
Yeah, 100%.
And she's been there to help me with that. And so I feel sorry for her, because I vent mainly to her after games and after certain situations. So she knows the game probably better than me.
Oh, well, if anyone's looking for a new coach,
Yeah.
Angela's available, especially in China, because that's where you reside currently. Yeah. I want to go to the moment, and I'm sure there's times where you kind of sit there and everyone goes, or you probably go, wait, is that the moment that I'm known for, or is there a whole host of moments that I'm known for? And there is. But 2005, 82,000 people, been 32 years that we had not qualified for a World Cup. Take me through walking out to take it.
People ask me, do you care that, especially in Australia, people only remember you for that moment? I go, the worst things to be remembered for.
At least they remember you for something.
Yeah. And I said, so I'm lucky that I've been involved in something so special, because you can play sport for so long and people only remember you for a poor game or missing a goal or whatever it is. So I was lucky to be put in this situation. But there's a lot more to get to this situation. I was involved in campaigns that we didn't qualify. I was involved in campaigns where I didn't really play a part, that I was coming on for 5 minutes. And so the first campaign against Iran here in Melbourne, it was iconic because we were 2-0 up. We were so close to going to World Cup. And then a guy comes on the field, pulls down the net, wastes time. They regroup and Iran go through with a draw. So, and I didn't play a minute in that game or in the first leg. So the build up of not playing, not being involved, and the next time was against Uruguay in 2001. I only came on for about 5 minutes, and after the game, I said to my wife, I said, next time we're here and put in this situation, I'm going to be the one to be able to step up and help us qualify. I know it, and that's all I'm going to do for the next 4 years. Obviously play my role in my club and that, but I knew that I had to perform well in my club to be able to get to this position. And so when the time came, it was I knew this was going to happen. So I had no fear at all. I knew that I was going to be put in this position one way or another. I didn't know it was going to be a penalty.
Because you spoke to Angela at the end of 2001.
Yeah.
But then is it true that you were actually telling your teammates as well? Like,
yeah,
I'm going to be
that's
the man
embarrassing,
that's in the moment.
but I did. I told Mark Viduka on a night out in London.
The quiet ones.
Yeah. So you get a bit more confidence.
Is that, was it born out of a confidence? Was it a manifestation?
I think
Was
a
it
little
stupidity?
bit of I think a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I think a little bit of everything. You have to be a little.
But if you don't tell yourself that story and the moment comes.
Yeah, you won't be ready for it. You won't be ready for it. I'll take, and I've told this story a few times. I missed a penalty when I was 14 years old in a semi-final, and I was playing the under-17s Adelaide City. And I remember it clearly because when I missed, we lost. And I remember 16-year-old boys in the change room crying because this was the biggest thing for us back then. And one of my teammates punched the wall. He thought it was, brick veneer. It was solid brick behind, broke his wrist. So that's clear in my memory. So I remember saying to myself, if I ever get put in this situation ever again, I need to be ready. So when as a striker, I practice finishing after training. So I'll practice penalties as well. During that period of my career, I'd also taken penalties, but missed penalties, taken and scored in important situations. So I had been practicing penalties for years, but what you can't practice the walk from the halfway line to the penalty spot. That's you can't practice.
Do you have any techniques that helped you stay in the moment?
The technique I was saying, because I practiced the night before at the stadium, 5 penalties after training, and I hit them the same corner, and I hit it really well. So I knew my run up, and all I was saying then after that for the next night was do exactly what you did last night, and we're going to the World Cup. And so that was my walk to the penalty spot. Do exactly what you did. We're going to the World Cup. And so I knew the steps I had to make. I knew. So it was as close as I think I've ever been, because it's different to normal. Like when you're playing, it's all instinctive. Like this is not. This is completely different.
World stops for it.
Yeah. But I was in the zone. I was sort of floating to the penalty spot. The 80,000 people, I could only hear whispers. Like, is this it? We go on to the World Cup if we score. So that's all I could hear. So all I did was put the ball down, went back. It was in the right-hand side of the post, 18-yard box. Looked at the referee to see. Didn't look at the goalkeeper once. I didn't want him to put me off. That was my technique of taking a penalty. And then it was all about striking the ball. As long as I strike the ball well, I know it's going in. The keeper's going to have no chance. So that helped me through that. Like, I get more nervous watching penalty takers now or watching a penalty shootout when you got... So, like, when I watched the Matildas, I was doing the TV up there for the game against France in Brisbane. And I was like, oh, God, this is nerve-wracking. But when you're in that moment,
you can control it.
You can control it. And then that's how I controlled my emotions.
Very impressive. When it did go in, who was the first person you looked for?
So again, my cocky self at the time. The day before, I asked the team manager where I have to run to. No, I said, where are our family sitting? And they goes, over there. And he goes, why do you want to know that? And I said, because where I'm going to run to when I score the winning goal. So
I love it.
I feel embarrassed talking about it. But again, you have to, because it's such the pressure moments, you have to convince yourself
100%
that this is going to happen. And my brother also, who's been a big part of my life in terms of football-wise, because we play the game now coaching, the day before, I knew I was on the bench. I called him up and he said, but remember what you've been saying? Because I was telling everyone.
Unashamedly.
Yeah.
I will be the man.
I'm gonna score the winning goal. I'm gonna score the winning goal. And he goes, so just focus on that. You're gonna come in and you're gonna score the winning goal. And so I knew where the family was sitting. So as soon as the ball hit the back of the net, it's a funny feeling because time stops a little bit. I see it going in. I see it just touching the net, but I don't hear not one bit of noise because no one knows in the stadium it's gone in except me because I'm there. And then once they see the ball and the net move, then there's a photo of me running off and I'm like stunned, but I haven't got this expression on my face because I don't hear no noise. And then I hear the noise.
Is what I saw, right?
Yeah, then I hear the noise. And then the noise was incredible. The run to where I stopped was where my family was sitting, and I didn't plan taking off the top, but that was.
I was going to say, was it premeditated?
No,
or
that wasn't.
Just get the rig out.
Yeah, no, that wasn't. I didn't have good enough body to take off my top, but I took it off anyway.
Do you get sick of being asked about it, or is it something that still there's a party that just lights up?
Not a part of me. When I hear people's stories of where they were, what it meant to them, that makes me feel good because we first start playing sport because we love it, because we've got that competitive, nature that we want to compete at any level, like whether you're playing table tennis or whatever sport you want to play. And then that you're starting to compete for this your livelihood. You're trying to win something, but I don't think you realize until you hear from people what it means to them and what it means to supporters and what it means to the general public. And so we're privileged to be put in this position, even though it can be tough at times because they can get on your back when things aren't going well. But how you can impact someone's life through a moment that's clearly something that you have only focused on because that's what you want to do in your life. So when I hear people's stories of what it meant to them, you just go, wow, I'm just so lucky and grateful that I was part of something special.
Absolutely, no doubt. And it's the thing that I now reflect on my journey, and they're the conversations you have about where someone was when you win a premiership and those experiences that kind of make you realise and appreciate that it is bigger than just a game.
Yeah, and especially in the club level, families go onto the game. Generations supporting this club. Generations
especially when it's been 32 years or 37.
Yeah,
that's
right.
When will that time be?
Yeah,
and you were part of creating that moment.
That's right. And so I've heard, and only recently, only last year, I was in the gym, and a guy came up to me and said, I just want to say to you, that moment I was sitting on the couch with my mum watching it, and that moment lives with me because mum's obviously not around anymore. That's the special moment I had with her. And it's like, okay, that's hit home. I realized the next day how much it meant to certain people was when I was flying back to Adelaide to see my family before I went back to Europe. And a guy came up to me and said, "You've made my dying father a happy man." He didn't think that he would see Australia qualifying again. So those things, they really touch you.
Going from being a player to a coach, I assume is a significant transition, even though probably most people go, oh, no, that makes sense, same environment. He kind of knows what he needs to do. How have you found that transition? I mean, it's been quite a journey. You've had the ups, you've had the downs, and you've had a fair bit of in between.
It's completely different to playing. Coaching is you're managing people. As a player, yes, when you're in leadership positions, you manage a little bit, but you still have your own game to worry about. You focus on and making sure that you're preparing right because that's setting a good example for you. You still have to do that as a coach. You have to make sure that you're setting the right example. You have to make sure the work ethic, and because you're driving this, you need to be the one that's doing it. But that's sort of natural for the way I want to be anyway. They're the values that I have. But it's completely different because you're not only managing your playing group, you're managing your staff, and everyone has different ways of managing, and also you're managing the hierarchy of your club, that can be probably the most difficult thing, because they don't all know what it's like to be down in the change room. They don't all know what it's like to be out on the pitch running around. They don't all know what it's like to play in front of 80,000 people or 500 people, because they haven't experienced that. And so you're trying to explain things to them. So the important thing is having a connection with them as well, a connection with your supporters, connection with the media, which is not always easy. So there's this big thing that you need to, you can't be perfect at all of it, but you need to understand that it's all important, just as important as the next thing. And so you need good people around you. No matter what you know as a coach, you need people that can help you. Also, because your voice can become stale very quickly if you're the only one that's speaking. So I'm a big believer in getting the best possible people around me to make our job easier and better and more efficient, and being the best that we can possibly be. And then, but at the start, I didn't realize this. So you get thrust in this position. I knew enough about the tactics. I knew enough about coaching. I learned a lot about myself in those first couple of years as coaching, that, okay, I can deal with people against me. That doesn't influence my decision making. That's a good thing, because as soon as you let people on the outside influence your decision making, you're gone. So I said, okay, I can deal with that. I ended up getting the sack in my first job at Melbourne Heart. That was, wow, that was like, you start to question yourself, start to question, are you a good coach? Are you the right person? Then you go, okay, and you reflect, what was I given to succeed? I had quite a few different people that come and spoke to me. David Parkin was one of the first ones, which, strange enough, different sport, but he knocked on my door, only 3-4 doors down, and he said, let's go have a coffee. And then, chatted to me about the situation and helped me a lot. And then I went into clubs, visited clubs overseas, and I said, I was doing a lot right. It probably wasn't the right environment, and for my first job, but I wouldn't take that back, because it helped me a lot to pick then, or the experiences that I had to deal with helped me in the future.
Speaking of some of those experiences, you stayed loyal with Western United as you started to understand there was serious financial trouble. Was that a loyalty, a stubbornness, or something else?
Yeah, a little bit of both. A little bit of both, because I at Brisbane Roar, when I was there for 3.5 years, and I realised the club weren't going in the same direction, so I walked. But I realised I should have walked a year earlier. And that was a little bit of a mistake. And so coaching is not only about what you do day to day, and it's also your decision making on when to stay at a club, when to leave a club. Western United, I stayed because I actually really believed the group that we were building could do something special. Yeah. And we had so many good young players. And so that was the loyalty factor. And the stubbornness was not seeing the big picture of this club's gonna fold and we're in real trouble here. But I actually felt that it was important to show the players that I'm here with you, because a lot of them had re-signed or were staying, and I didn't want to walk when they were still there, and that's why I stayed with them through a very, very tough period. And try to help them through it as much as possible. We can't control this. What we can control is what we're doing here on the pitch. And whether we're in the league or not, you'll be better for it, because you'll be ready to go somewhere else. And that's all you can focus on. That's all you can control.
Do you have any frustrations with the way that Australian football or soccer is either run, or the
How
way
long have we got?
Keep it brief. But is there one thing that, say you had the position where you could change something, is there one particular thing that you go, that is the first move that I would make?
You know what? I don't really know where the first. I can't say. I've been involved that long in the game here in Australia. And I'm still going, how have we not gone forward with the game? There's so many great moments, so many highs, and we keep on putting ourselves in a bad position through whatever it is. I'm a big believer on making it all under one umbrella. AFL have done it. Tennis Australia have done it. We've got member feds that are running something, and then we've got the Football Australia running something. So no one's on the same page. Now, there's not only about rules and regulations and it's also about government funding. Who do they go to? Like, who gets it? So I don't think that can work, and it hasn't worked. That will never change, I don't think, because there's too many people that are involved in it, that it's self-interest or not self-interest, that I don't think it will change. But I think it has to be all under one.
What's a greater chance, the way that Australian football is run or the Australian government is run, changing?
The Australian government would, if that changes, then Australian football will change.
All right, so we should start there. Is that what you're saying?
I think there's a greater chance of the Australian government changing than Australian football. Yeah, it's too long now that with this discussion has been had. I had it back when I was working at Optus Sport. We got all ex-players involved, and we all said the same thing, and it
fell
just,
on deaf ears.
Yeah, it won't happen.
Well, I hope, based on your feedback, that it does at some stage. The family, the girls, all three born in Spain. They're 23,
24,
24,
22, 19.
19. What did having kids do to changing you in the way that you went about life or sport?
It's amazing because before you have kids, you don't really think that there's anything more important than yourself, really, because you think so much about what you have to do.
But there's an element that it has to be that way too.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't get the best out of yourself.
No, that's right. When you have kids, you know that they're the most important thing in your life, and so when it helped me with my game, it really did, because I'm going through either good moments or bad moments or whatever, and they're there, and they just balance you out. Like, you're their dad. Like, yesterday I was going to visit my daughter at work. She goes, "Oh, just to let you know, the girl that works with me, her brother grew up like idolizing you, and she's so nervous." And she goes to her, "It's my dad." Like,
He's just a dad.
Yeah. And so that levels you out. And so that and then you become like, what's going on in their life, and trying to help them with their own lives, also knowing that you have to sort of let them live their life to an extent. But it helps you as a person understand, helps me as a coach, definitely, because I've got 3 daughters. They're all different. I have to speak to them differently. So as a coach, it goes to show, when everyone says, "Oh, you should treat them all the same," okay, how can you treat your players all the same when they're all different? Yes, you have your values. Yes, you have your behavioural guidelines and all these things. I said, but I can't treat them all the same, because then they're different. And so it's just like your kids. So I've got 3 that I know that they're all different, and they all will show different emotions, and they will, one will talk more, the other one less. It's the same with the playing group. So that's helped me a lot with that, and the emotional intelligence, that comes into play.
How impactful has, now that the kids are a little bit older, has it been that they've experienced so many different cultures growing up? Because my wife and I often talk about how much we would love to, live somewhere else for a year. And it's kind of like, there's a whole host of, if I had a job opportunity, maybe there'd be more. Don't need anyone. China.
If you want to come and uproot to China, then you're more than welcome.
But how much has it influenced the way, I see a lot of kids that have had that experience, and they seem to be more confident, or they have the ability of knowing different languages, or they just have this natural ability to kind of put themselves out there because they've had to.
Yeah, it can work both ways. It can be that they don't feel settled in any place. We try and make them look at the positives about, like what you're saying, about different experiences, different cultures, being able to make friends in different situations. And that's, I think, helped them a lot. I do. Even the way they communicate with people, the way they talk to people, because they've had to. This is part of what they've gone through their whole life. They've lived in so many different places. They're not in China at the moment, but they mainly only got to experience a little bit of Spain when they were really little. But when we came back to Australia, we were on the Central Coast, then we went to Sydney, then went to Melbourne, then up to Brisbane. And so they got to experience being around different...
Which there is differences there.
They're really different. And also we've got family in Adelaide. So people still can't pick their accent because where are you from? And so... But that it has helped them, and I think it shapes them, of course.
Your brother Ross coaches in the same league. I know that there was a game not too long ago that you both played against each other. Is it still the same fire in the belly when you're coming up against your brother in something competitive? Or is it a little bit different because you know there's bigger stakes on the line?
Yeah, a little bit different because if it's my brother against me, just us competing, then of course there's a fire in the belly because we both let's go. But because there's more at stake in terms of he's representing his club, he's got his own team, I've got my club, the playing group. So you're focused on doing well for them, and he's obviously focused on doing well for his team. But I want to see him succeed as well, but just not this game. And so it was different. It was difficult. I think it became a big thing in China because I think the first time the Chinese Super League that two brothers coached against each other. Now, whether that happens again or not, but I was happy that we won. We won 4-0, but I also felt uneasy what he was going through as well because I know I've been on that side. I know what it feels like. So it was a strange game to be involved in.
I do need to begin to wrap up because you've been so generous with your time, but how do you define success now as compared to how you would have defined it when you walked in and played in Belgium at 16, for instance?
Yeah, completely different. Success comes in many ways because everyone sees success as winning trophies. That's one part of it. People don't see success of overcoming certain obstacles in your career, in your life. People don't see that like success, especially for a coach, is seeing someone that was, I don't mean to like say B grade or anything like that, but improving each individual. So as a coach, your job is to improve each individual if you can. It's not always that easy. And then improve the collective if you can, improve the club if you can. And that doesn't necessarily come with winning a trophy or because not everyone can win it. And then, success is what you want it to look like. And so I've learned over the years that there's many forms of it, and you need to try and enjoy the journey more than where the outcome is. And so I never used to really enjoy, a win so much. Like when I was a coach, as a player, a little bit different. As a coach, you'll be, okay, we need to worry about the next game and need to worry about what we didn't do right. They go, yeah, that will come. Enjoy the moment because they're moments that you must enjoy because or else you're not going to enjoy the journey. And then the end goal, you're not going to enjoy as much. So I've learnt that over time, definitely over time, because I've been through the ups and downs of it. So enjoy the moment as much as possible, even the tough times, because you're still in those tough times and how you're going to get out of it. So I don't know if I answered the question, but success can look different for a lot of people. And for me, it looks different to probably just winning trophies.
Going back to your 15-year-old self, what's the one piece of advice you could give him to help with the journey that's ahead?
Probably how to deal with outside voices in terms of when I was playing, that affected me a bit. Different now because I'm a lot older and dealt with it different ways and a lot of other occasions. But I think that would be the main advice, because you're not going to always get, you're the best player. And at 15, you think that you're going to be told that all the time. So how to deal with that And that was something that I struggled with for a period of time, is how to deal with the media going after you, how to deal with the supporters not backing you, how to deal with those things. That would be the main advice.
And if there was a 15-year-old listening to us right now, which I'm sure there is, how do they implement that into their life, whether they're a professional athlete or just a kid trying to do their best?
Yeah, there's different ways. I looked at it that the best thing for me was motivational books, affirmations, writing things down, writing your goals down, all these things. Meditating helped me a lot, because that just brought me back. And trying as much as possible not to read negative about you, because I know that
we're wired to go there.
Yeah, and it hurts. I don't care what anyone says, how strong you are, how resilient you are. When you're reading something that's negative towards you, it does hurt you. But you also have to know that these people have never been put in, a lot of them have never been put in the same situation you have been put in. So what they're saying doesn't really matter. But try to tell that to someone. And so there will be, I think what I'm trying to get at is that you have to have your own self-confidence, even though it gets knocked a little bit, and through that is how you want to get it. Is it through the meditation? I found that really helped.
When it's all said and done for you, whether it's retirement or it's your funeral, what are the two things you hope people say about John Aloisi?
Again, I'm not sure whether I really know or want people to remember me in a certain way. I know who I am. And I think that takes a long time to get to a point that you go, I know who I am. So I don't really worry about what I won't change who I am, no matter what the situation is, whether in sport, winning, losing. I am this person, and whether that's being a good person, being honest. People want to be around you because you got this positive nature. I don't know what they're going to think of me as
just answer the question.
Yeah, but I just know that I know I'm comfortable in what I'm doing and who I am, and the people I have around me.
Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, so thanks so much for joining us. Good luck.
Thanks.
I'll be. Where do I watch your level?
Yeah, YouTube is the main one that you can get it on. Yeah, but it's not easy to find over here. It's occasionally you'll be able to get it, and it's if you like Chinese commentators.
That's one way to learn a language, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't think you'll learn it that way.
I definitely can't write it. I know that.
Yeah,
tried that at one stage.
But yeah, you might be able to get it on YouTube, and you can follow it. Through Instagram, their results and whatever social media will have some sort of results. But yeah, that's the best way.
Well, thank you. Thanks for showing up as a very genuine human being and giving your best. It definitely comes through in the way that you speak and the people that you speak about. So keep up the amazing work and look forward to catching up again soon.
Thanks for having me on.
No worries.